Hello and welcome to episode 33 of Bills with Luke Scorzel. Today's episode is another conversation in our series to help us find commonalities despite our differences. Currently, we are in the pioneer stages of what is called the experience economy. People today, especially millennials, are more interested in buying experiences than they are products. So today I talk with Case Lawrence, a thought leader in this experience economy. He is the CEO and founder of CircusTrix, the largest indoor recreation and trampoline park company in the world with more than 290 locations. Their brands include Sky Zone, Superfly, Rock and Jump, and Rise. All super exciting names, right? But today we talk about how our addiction to sharing our experiences on social media is changing the world economy as we know it. Stay tuned and keep listening. I'm Luke Scorzel, and this is Bills. Alright, so before we get into the interview, I'd like to first take a moment to thank our patrons. Thank you to Zachary for his $30 a month donation. Super excited about that. With that, he gets a special book and a lot of other generous prizes on patreon.com. Thank you to Mike, Julie, and Tiana, who have all generously decided to support the show with monthly donations of $15. You can find Mike online at lakearrowheadbuilder.com. He has one of the most impressive home portfolios in Southern California, so go check that out. You can find Tiana online at Benchmark Bicycle. Benchmark Bicycle is a full-service bicycle shop in Greer, South Carolina, made for cyclists by cyclists. So go give it a look. And a big thank you to Julie as well as our other patrons, $5 and $1 patrons. So with those levels of support, they get access to any giveaways, promotions, and they get a shout-out at the beginning and end of each show, obviously, and exclusive Patreon-only posts, including every episode early. In addition, I'll send you a few stickers from the podcast. They are amazing. You can go listen to other episodes to see how excited I am about those. And then you get the ability to participate in the mailbag and just have conversations with me. So without further ado, let's get into the interview. Hello and welcome back to episode 33 of Bills with Luke Scorzel. Today, Case Lawrence, the CEO and founder of CircusTrix, the largest indoor recreation and trampoline park company in the world, and a leader in the experience economy, joins us on the show. Welcome to the show, Case.
Thanks for having me, Luke.
No problem. I'm glad to have you. So you graduated from the Duke School of Law and maybe had a little law orient going on at the beginning of your career. But how exactly did you get involved in entrepreneurship and then ultimately the experience economy?
Great question. I actually did start my career in law. I began with a law firm in Silicon Valley called Venture Law Group, and I was working with some of the premier technology companies in the world, particularly technology startups in Silicon Valley. And it was during the internet boom in the early part of the 2000 decade. And there were a lot of IPOs, a lot of M&A activity going on. And I got exposed to a lot of really fascinating entrepreneurs. I was on the team working with a startup called X.com with Elon Musk. And that was just one of many really interesting entrepreneurs I was working with at that time. And so I got exposed to good entrepreneurs early in my life. And I think that was, or early in my career. And I think that really shaped my, my expectations and career path ultimately. After practicing law, I left Silicon Valley and left the practice of law in 2002 and began developing commercial real estate in my native area and region of Central California. And I did that for several years, right up until and into the Great Recession of 08, 09. And I was sort of a case study, if you will, of a typical California commercial real estate developer in the Great Recession, meaning I was absolutely eviscerated from a career standpoint. I had several large projects going on, all of which had significant commercial debt, significant relationships with banks, and all of those projects were hijacked by the real estate recession. And so I spent 2 years of my life basically digging out and working out with banks to try to avoid bankruptcy during that time. And I like to tell my company and my family and anyone that'll listen that no matter what I accomplish with CircusTrix or anything else, my greatest business accomplishment was avoiding bankruptcy in '08 and '09, and I mean that sincerely. It was a rough time. People who worked and had their career through that time can relate, but it was a very difficult time. And so I was looking for something else to do entirely. In fact, it wasn't it wasn't even logical at that time to really think that if you were in real estate that there was a path forward in a career in real estate. And so everyone was looking for something different. I updated and reactivated my bar license and thought I might go back to practicing law. And right about that same time, this was 2010, I'd finally got everything cleared out with the banks. And right about that time, I took my boys to a baseball game up in San Francisco to see the Giants play. And we went to a spring day game there. And a friend of mine said, hey, while you're up there, you ought to check out this place. It's at the Presidio. They were redeveloping the hangars, the old military hangars, and they turned one of them into a trampoline park. And a friend of mine said, hey, you ought to go check those out. And I did. I took my boys and just had a really unique experience and was overwhelmed by this really weird place. It was filled with trampolines, had music playing, had people in workout clothes sweating, playing trampoline dodgeball. It was this mashup of all these different things. And I was struck right from the beginning. And I left that trip with my imagination soaring and pretty determined that I was going to create one myself. And that's what I did. So I launched my first, and it opened in 2011 in Madera, California. It was called Skywalk at the time. And now, we have over 290 facilities. So it's been quite a ride since then, since 2011.
When you first got into it all, CircusTrix and the trampoline parks, was this whole experience economy on your mind? Had you heard about it before, or was it really going to that trampoline park that it piqued your interest in that?
It was not the experience economy. It was, as I mentioned, it was really more of personal career desperation for me. I was looking for something to feed my family. And I think, frankly, the economy in general was more focused on all of the negative news everywhere during that time. We tend to forget, our memory fades. It was a really tough time economically. And so I don't think people, everyone was trying to figure out how the economy was going to survive, and no one was really paying attention to some of these macro trends that were going to be coming at us pretty full speed here in the next over these last 5 years. So I think it's pretty newly recognized.
Mm-hmm. What exactly was it about the trampoline park that inspired you to go and create your own company? It wasn't really just that you went to the trampoline park and came out and you were happy and inspired. It was literally that you wanted to go and create your own company that was based off of this.
Yeah, I think it was really because it inspired my creativity. It was this unique mashup of all these different things that I'd never seen combined before. It was physical fitness, it was competition, it was aesthetic. There was art and color and throughout, and design throughout this environment. There was music playing. There was kind of a club environment. It was a social activity. There were a bunch of groups there with friends. It also defied age classification. I was there with my boys, but there were adults and work groups there playing. And so it was just this really odd mashup. And I think the uniqueness of it really struck me and captured my creative imagination. And I was a real estate developer, and I think there was a sense of, hey, I can do this. It seemed feasible to me that I could, that all the constituent parts were within my reach of putting together and creating one myself. So all of those kind of played into it.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to get into a little bit, what exactly the experience economy is. So we've gotten a little bit of background from CircusTrix, but what exactly is the experience economy, and how does it compare to, for example, the service economy?
I think really to take even a step back from that, Luke, is, and to tie this into really, a couple larger macro trends is you really have to look at Amazon and what many people call the Amazon effect. For the last 30 years, American retail has been driven and inspired by the Walmart model. And it was a model that said the way to successful, profitable retail is to build big box retail centers in inline shopping centers throughout America, and to put as many goods as you could in one place and use technology to manage that inventory in a profitable way. And if that was the winning formula for retail, well, we have 30 years of big box real estate built up in America on this model. And that has all been disrupted in the last several years by Amazon. And I say Amazon, and certainly it includes other e-commerce, sales online. But we use the term Amazon really to capture all of that. Amazon has changed retail behavior, and people are now buying more, and if not all of their goods online. Amazon Prime really signaled a new layer of people building online purchasing into their lifestyle. And what you have now is that shopping, which has been in American history, first in the shopping mall and then in inline retail supercenters over the last couple decades, has been an activity. Now it really is a to-do item. We make our list of things we want to buy, and we do it at the office on Amazon before we get started for the day. We check the box, and it's a lot. The friction buying things that way is a lot less. But we've also sapped a lot of the romance out of it and a lot of the experience out of that shopping. And so what we're looking at instead now, what the move is experiential type of retail. In other words, in order to compete and lure people out of their homes, in front of their screens, you have to provide an experiential type of service, meaning you have to offer people an experience. And that's really what we're talking about with the experience economy is people want to do things. They want to have adventures and narrative and meaning into their day and into their activities. And shopping is no longer, or should we say, is much less of an activity, a meaningful activity in people's lives in this Amazon economy.
The one thing that keeps popping into my head is Costco and all of the samples that they have. And really, it seems like when you're going to Costco to shop for your goods, it's much less. Well, I mean, it is obviously about the product that you're getting, but it is about like going on a Saturday or Sunday and getting to go and sample a bunch of food. And so it becomes more of an experience. So does that kind of play into what you're talking about a little bit?
I think so. I think that's right. I think that is one of the reasons Costco continues to thrive. And, in my family, going to Costco is an event. And we're typically in sweats, and we're heading to Costco, and we're gonna get try samples, and we're gonna get a hot dog, and we're gonna have a frozen yogurt, and so they've built experiential factors and principles into the Costco shopping experience, and I think that's one of the reasons it's hanging in there.
So then, is this bringing people back? I mean, out of the Amazon shopping and into the real world again? I suppose you could say, just going back into a store and shopping.
I think there will always be, actual store-going shopping. I think, however, those who will be successful are going to be like Costco. They're going to have to build experiential elements into that, and I think you're going to see a lot of creativity over the coming years do that. One of the other factors, there's several other factors driving this experience economy, Luke, and one of them is, McKinsey just came out with a report last quarter focused on this experience economy. And one of the things they noticed is that, Americans are spending more on experiences than ever before, and that's all age groups. So baby boomers, Gen X, and millennials are all spending more on experiences. But this is very interesting. Millennials are spending 4 times more than the other age groups on experiences. And so there seems to be a generational bias in the millennial generation toward spending their money on experiences rather than things. And when I say experiences, I mean travel, I mean sporting events, I mean eating out, fitness, trampoline parks, and other kind of active recreation, Top Golf, iFly, you name it. And so the younger generation seems to be evolving in their typical behavior, to historical behavior in terms of how they want to spend money. And this is also tied to a lot of data that's out there, Luke, that's come forward recently that backs that up, that really, data that shows scientifically that we get more yield in terms of happiness and joy from experiences than we do from things. And this millennial generation seems to appreciate that, and their behavior shows that.
One of the interesting things about millennials is that they're the phone generation, and same with Gen Z, which comes after them. But how do the phones play into this? Are those an experience in themselves? Is that, are millennials just trying to get away from their phones and they want to go do things outside and experience more, and maybe their phone is the only product that they need?
Yeah, I think that is a very interesting insight, and I think there are 2 possible answers to that. One is, I think people are so sated with screen time, and they do spend so much screen time, frankly, in unnatural ways, that I think the human soul has an appetite to break out of that. And so when we do recreate, when we do have time to ourselves, there's almost a equal and opposite reaction to all the screen time we have, that we really want intense and meaningful, and to pack our time with experiences when we are off of our phones. Now, the other factor that you kind of allude to when you mention phones, of course, is social media. And that's another huge driving factor here in this. We're seeing in our business, and I think one of the other big principles driving this experience economy is that people are actually allowing social media to drive their offline behavior. They are actually planning their activities and participating in experiences for the very purpose of posting on social media. And so in our business, we like to say that we're in the business of selling selfies. And I think there are many businesses today that are in that industry as well, meaning people go and participate at a trampoline park, and one of the conscious, or at least at a minimum subconscious, objectives in doing so is to post a selfie or a snap of them or their kids playing and participating at a trampoline park.
So they've almost become a way of self-advertising, I suppose, for the businesses. But then, getting into social media, has that itself become an experience? Because you have these external experiences, say going to a trampoline park or going to a sporting event, and that's something that you're doing physically. But then phones and technology have presented Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and these augmented reality and virtual reality as other ways to get involved in these experiences that aren't necessarily with other people face to face, but still in a similar way.
Right, and that's one of the great points of tension in the whole social media world, is to enjoy it and to be a voyeur and to observe it. It's very passive. But if you want to participate in it and actually excel in it, you do have to lead an active life, and you have to have experiences that can play well on social media as posts. And the example, the philosophical punchline we use in our company is, many have heard the philosophical version of, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound? And in the social media world, the analogy to that is, if someone goes to it and has an activity or does something with friends, has an experience, and they don't post about it, did it really even happen? And that's an interesting question to ponder. Part of the value of people venturing out of their homes and up in front of their computer and TV screens is to have experiences that they can post. And if they're looking for that, and there's a great market for that out in America today.
So then how have you taken advantage of that with your own business? You mentioned that you're selling the selfie, I guess, but then how do your locations physically to facilitate that?
That's a great question. That's really part of our secret sauce at CircusTrix. We treat our parks as if every inch, head to toe, floor to ceiling, is a photo studio. We spend tens of thousands of dollars on large format mural art, street art, graffiti art, getting color on the walls. We black out the ceilings of our parks at great expense. And the whole point of that is to create optical production value from every angle in our park, so that wherever people are, wherever they're taking a selfie or recording a video, that it's highly produced optically. And that's very important, and the standards for that are growing in this social media world. The other thing we do is, as we plan attractions and roll out attractions in our parks, really the threshold question or the test is whether that attraction can play well as a 3 to 5 second Instagram story or Snapchat or other post. Many of our attractions are very popular simply because they make for a very compact and highly produced social media post.
So for example, maybe I don't know if you have a dunking trampoline or something like that, but that seems very shareable on social media.
Dunking is great. Trampolines are great. Ninja courses are great. Specifically, the most telling example we've ever had is we introduced a trapeze attraction. And it's a basic trapeze swing from a large platform into a foam pit. And some may think it's relatively unexciting, but what we found is it's a perfect 3-second snap. And that has made all the difference. It's one of our most popular attractions for that reason.
Mm-hmm. And one of the other problems, I guess, or questions that emerges with these types of new economies are the effect on the labor force. So with the rise of the service economy, the manufacturing economy was very reluctant and I guess scared maybe of what would happen to all of the jobs and the workers that had gone there. So how does the rise of the experience economy have the same effect or impact on our current economy?
So just to clarify the question, meaning the experience economy or the service economy?
The experience economy. So how does that impact, I guess, the labor force?
Well, I think it impacts it in the same way that any shift in the economy does. There's going to continue to be large spending, but it will certainly change the nature of those jobs. And I think that it really creates a diversity of opportunity for people to be in professions that are in the past have been considered play or been considered fun or avocations. I think there's going to be a lot greater opportunity to pursue those things as careers. So I think that's good news for people. For example, I think there are going to be much greater opportunity for people to pursue professions in golf or in skydiving or in extreme sports. And not that those didn't exist in the past, but they will exist in much greater abundance now in this experience economy.
Yeah, and it's funny because those are golf too, but especially skydiving and these extreme sports, base jumping. They're very prevalent on social media, and people like to follow those accounts. I even follow them, and it's like I'm never going to jump off of a building, even with a parachute. But it's interesting to watch and kind of fun to see someone else have the thrill and almost vicariously live through the video.
Right. That's right.
So I guess similarly, if you're in a trampoline park and you take a video of the dunk, I mean, it's more accessible, but it's also like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I'd like to go try that. And I've been to Sky Zone a few times, and it is really fun to do the basketball hoop.
Right. That's exactly.
So then, I mean, you're obviously employing a very large amount of people. Are there a lot of careers that can be made in your company, especially?
Absolutely. I mean, we have over 3,000 employees, and many of those jobs, we obviously have our corporate jobs, but many of those jobs are in the parks, and they're people getting to work hands-on with kids and with youth and with extreme sports. And so it really is an example of what we're talking about. You know, if you work in the field at CircusTrix, chances are you're wearing shorts or and yoga pants, shorts or yoga pants to work, and you're being active and having a kind of a unique career experience. So I think it's going to really expand our view of what work is and what work can be. And the most successful opportunities are going to be, if you're good at having fun and having fun with other people, I think you're going to have a lot of opportunity in this experience economy.
Mm-hmm. And one of the, moving into a little bit of policy and on the topic of jobs as well, but one of the main things that President Trump has been doing has been the increase in tariffs. He recently announced tariffs on steel and aluminum, but those are on material goods and products. So how do such trade policies affect an economy that is based on experiences and not products, especially?
Yeah, I think it will have an effect. I think the experience economy is going to be much less dependent on things, on goods, on products. I mean, obviously there will always be indirectly needs for goods associated with the experience economy, but I think you're going to see again, just as the move from is to experiences away from things, that's going to mean less things needing to come into the country. And I think that will probably benefit trade balances to the United States, because I think internationally there's still some catching up to do. I think the U.S. is definitely leading in the experience economy. So I think it will favor trade balances with the U.S. for many, many years to come.
And what are some of those areas in which the United States is leading? So what are some of the experiences that the experience economy has to offer?
Yeah, I think one of the things that is required with the experience economy is capital. Most of these experiential type uses do require pretty heavy capex. And the example, the ultimate example I would give you is Disneyland. Is maybe an example of the ultimate experience economy example, where you have a huge investment in creating a place and creating an experience, and then running people through that experience. And certainly they are selling goods to those people, but the primary value generator is the experience. And I think if you imagine Disneyland on a larger scale, with greater volume and many more companies, I think that gives you a little sense of what the experience economy is going to be.
And then we get into the topic of taxes as well. So last year, when we had a few episodes on this, the government passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which significantly changed the taxes. And you've mentioned that will actually have more implications on the experience economy and these types of businesses than we think. So what are some of the impacts that will have?
Yeah, that really is a fascinating area of discussion, because American tax policy is really built up around the goods economy, goods and services economy, and is in no way really built around or with a paradigm toward the experience economy. And the example I would give you is sales tax. Sales tax is fairly uniform across the 50 states. There's certainly some outliers like Oregon or Alaska that don't have sales tax, but that's done intentionally, and it's done as a very unique sort of model or business plan for those states to provide incentives for people to buy goods, from their state. The issue and the intellectual challenge is that experiences don't really touch on, or not. Let me back up. Sales taxes don't really apply to experiences. And so as more money is spent on experiences than goods, it's going to continue to have a real extreme effect on sales taxes that are gathered. And when you look at the various states, when it comes to admissions taxes or entry taxes, ticket taxes, things that would apply more directly toward experience economy types of offerings, the states are really all over the place in terms of tax policy on that. And we see that at CircusTrix. For example, California, which certainly has your home state, Luke, and certainly has a reputation as a high tax state, has no admissions tax. So, our parks in California, for example, do not pay any admissions tax on those who buy tickets to come in and participate at Sky Zone or at a CircusTrix park. On the other hand, there are some states in Virginia, for example, that are going to pay a significant entry or admissions tax, sometimes up to 10 or 12%. And of course, in Europe, the VAT taxes are applied to both admissions and to goods. And so that's a significant disincentive toward experience economy types of offerings in some of those states, and also in Europe and other parts of the world where they have VATs that apply to admissions and entry. So I think you're going to see a lot of states responding to the experience economy by bringing their admissions tax policies in line or to be competitive with other states.
And how hard is it for someone to get started in the experience economy? You mentioned that it requires a large amount of capital to have, so you have to pretty much, it sounds like, already be somewhat successful or just have some money lying around or investors willing to invest in your idea. But how hard is it to start? And then would having these kind of tax policies on the entry price or the tickets, would that make it even harder?
It could. I mean, I know that with our parks, as we make decisions on where to locate parks, the existence of an admissions tax or not is certainly a big factor on our pro forma. And so, I think it does affect that. And I think in general, a lot of experience economy offerings require capital, but there are certainly examples of many that do not. And one that comes to mind immediately is the rise of the escape room. You may be familiar with. They're spreading throughout America. Just about every community of 200,000 or more has an escape room business. And it's really very little capital to start, and it's really driven more by creativity and brain power. And they're very popular and have been very successful throughout the American experience economy. So that's an example of one that really doesn't require a lot of capital expenditure.
So what exactly is that for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah, escape rooms are, again, sort of entertainment venues where you go socially with a group of people or with your family, and you try to solve puzzles or mysteries with other people to escape your fictional circumstances in those rooms. And they're very popular. They've been gaining momentum and notoriety over the last 5 years, I would say. And it really is very little capital to get started, and just a really fun experience. The other thing I would mention to that is really the rise of the experience economy over the last 5 years has been in prosperous economic times. And there's been a lot of debate and discussion on how the experience economy will do if there is an economic downturn and how it would do in a recession or depression type of environment. And the only historical data we have on that is from the Great Depression and in some respects the Great Recession, that really the golden age of Hollywood and the rise of cinema going began in the Great Depression. And the reasoning behind that is that even in times of economic hardship, people are willing to spend micropayments on escape from reality and an escape from the everyday, and to have experiences that transcend their normal and sometimes dreary circumstances. And that was certainly the case with the movies and cinema during the Great Depression. And I think that there's some indication that because of that, that many of these experience economy offerings will be somewhat recession proof. People may not buy a new car in a recession, something that's going to result in, several $100s of ongoing payments a month, but they will spend $12, $13 on a one-time experience. So there's a lot to think about with that.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting that it would be, it could almost be a sector that would prosper during an economic downfall if people were then more interested to escape kind of the hellish reality of a bad economy and get into this fictional experience almost.
That's the theory. And so it'll be interesting to see that as we move into the future.
Was there any evidence from 2008? I know really the term experience economy was coined in the late 90s or in the 90s, and maybe it was growing but not quite as big. So is there evidence from 2008 to say that it did resist the recession?
Really, a lot of the really new experience models that we think of, at that price point really didn't exist then. For example, the trampoline park economy really didn't exist. Topgolf, iFly, many of these new bowling concepts. So we really have movies to go off. And again, same thing. Movies did not really suffer during the Great Recession. So there's not enough data across other uses in the experience economy yet to really draw conclusions, but I think that will be something to pay attention to if and when the economy shifts downward.
Yeah, well, inevitably the economy will. So then what is the future of the experience economy? Has it reached its kind of final state where it might stay? Has it peaked, or is it still evolving?
I think it's the very early pioneer days of it, and I think that we're going to see an absolute explosion over the next decade in experiential opportunities in the marketplace. And I think it's going to combine with breakthroughs in technology. I think you're going to see a combination of real life experiences with technological innovation. For example, virtual reality. The likelihood is that virtual reality will not just be something people participate in a dark room at home. It will be something that is combined and synergized with real life experiences, including physical active experiences, to create just a whole different kind of human activity. And I think we're going to see a lot of creativity in this direction over the next decade.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you mentioned virtual reality. Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia, California, I believe they've just released a new roller coaster within the past few years that actually uses virtual reality goggles, and they put them on, and all of a sudden you're in some kind of superhero type experience, But you're on the roller coaster simultaneously while living in this kind of virtual world. And so I guess it kind of, combines the out of house and the experience that you would get going to an amusement park anyways.
Exactly. I think you're going to see more of that. The other example I would point you to, I think really considered the tip of the spear in the amusement space right now is Harry Potter World. And you really see that in all of the rides, all of the amusements in Harry Potter World, and how they blend the virtual reality and the technology with the physical experience of being in the park. And it's really well done. It's really well produced, and I think you're going to see more and more of that. And I think you're going to see it spill over into our sports, into our fitness, into recreational pursuits like bowling, things that in the past like laser tag and paintball. You're going to see technology really transform all those activities.
Mm-hmm. And how will it transform? I mean, we brought up the movies a few times, but how are the movies impacted? I mean, that's kind of like, our entertainment and the experience economy the same thing, or do they differ a little bit?
I think they really can be the same thing. I think it's certainly part of the experience economy, and I would point you toward the innovations over the last couple of years alone in theaters. Theaters are responding to the experience economy, and they realize that people can look at screens at home, and to really take the next step in theater experience, you have to provide better and new experiences. And so you're seeing, different seating options, the lounge seating. You're seeing the moving and shaking seats, and kind of the integrating virtual reality concepts into that experience. And I think that you're also seeing more VIP types of opportunities in movie theaters where you can, private screenings and captive parties at movie theaters. So I think you're going to see movie theaters and viewing experience follow some of these same trends in the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm. And then kind of, I guess, for the future too, but where in the country or in the world even is this explosion happening? Are there any particular cities or places, or is it just kind of growing everywhere?
I think it's growing everywhere. One of the interesting things about the post-internet world we live in is that expectations are almost instantaneous around cultures. Once something is available in Los Angeles, for example, people in Tokyo see their expectation is that should be available there. And so there's kind of this immediate setting of expectations across cultures through the internet and YouTube and media on the internet. So we see trampoline parks, for example. We're in Pakistan. We are in Hong Kong. We are in Europe. We're all over the globe, and people like experiences and like trampolines everywhere. So I think that's going to apply to just about every creative, experiential business idea that comes forward. You're going to see a demand for it across the globe.
And then kind of wrapping up a little bit, but where is CircusTrix and Sky Zone and the different trampoline parks that you own? What is the future of that?
Yeah, I think you're going to continue to see innovation within the trampoline park industry, and certainly at CircusTrix with our Sky Zone and other and Rock and Jump parks, as well as our signature CircusTrix parks. You're going to see new attractions. One of the challenges of being in the experiential space is that you need to continually innovate and provide new attractions and new experiences to your clientele to give them reasons to keep coming back. You need to be in continual pursuit of the new thing. And we will continue to do that. I think you'll continue to see trampoline parks move away from trampolines and into new and exciting physical activities. I think trampolines will certainly always be a part of it, but you're going to see some of the new trends in parkour, in tricking, and other adrenaline sports continue to modify and make their way into the trampoline park venue. And so I think that the trampoline park venue is here to stay, but it will continue to innovate and be part of the entertainment offering in America and throughout the world for going forward for the next several decades.
Well, all very interesting, and I think it will be good to take a look at where this goes in the next few years. Maybe this will be the one of the first interviews
Right.
getting on board with this. So, where can our audience find out more about you and CircusTrix in general?
Well, they can visit our website at www.circustrix.com. They can follow me on Twitter uh, at Case Lawrence, my full name spelled out, CaseLawrence. And they can go to their, search the internet for their local CircusTrix Park, including Sky Zone, Rock and Jump, Dojo Boom, Defy Gravity, many other brands, all under the CircusTrix umbrella. We are a house of brands, and we create the best parks in the world. So you can find us probably in your local community.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Again, that was Case Lawrence of CircusTrix on the experience economy. Next week, we are going to have Shane Liddell, who is a crypto economy expert, on the show. He's going to talk about how technology like blockchain and cryptocurrency is changing how we conduct business and run our government. So stay tuned for that. You can go over and subscribe at theedgeofideas.com to get an email when that goes out. We only send emails when there are new episodes. Additionally, if you'd head over to iTunes, leave a nice review, and hit subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. Again, a lot of work goes into these episodes. If you missed last week's episode, I talked with Michael Johns about American division, immigration policy, trade policy, and much, much more. I talked with Stephen Lusk the week before on criminal justice reform, Michael Hout on his experience on college campuses regarding the Democratic Party, and finally, Austin Peterson, the Republican candidate for Senate in Missouri at the moment. And lots more episodes. This is episode 33. So there are 32 more episodes for you to check out if you missed them. So again, I'd greatly appreciate it if you head over to iTunes and leave a nice, honest review. A lot of work goes into these episodes, and go head over to theedgeofideas.com/subscribe. And again, thank you to our Patreons, Zachary for $30 a month, Mike, Julie, and Tiana for their $15 a month donations. So I would really appreciate it too if you even just went over and gave Patreon a look. I actually publish all of my podcasts over there too, and it's a great platform to listen on. So if you'd like to go listen over there, then please do. With all that, I'll see you next week. I'm Luke Scorzel, and you're listening to Bills.